So welcome to the video. Today we are going to take a look at how to do a Mann Whitney U test on version 31 of SPSS. So for this example, we are going to imagine that we're interested in the level of fear about crime experienced by people living in either urban or rural areas. So in this column here, we have number ones to represent people living in urban areas, and we have number twos to represent people living in rural areas. And in this B column here, we have fear scores. So a higher number equals a greater amount of fear regarding crime. So let's take a look at how to put these data into SPSS. So we'll go down to variable view, and then we'll use this name column here to give a name to our independent variable. So that could be something like neighborhood type. So I'm referring to our rural or urban neighborhoods. And I'm using an underscore between the two words because I can't use a space in this column. Then let's give a name to our dependent variable. So let's just call this fear. And then if we go to this values column here, and if we click on this box here, and then on this plus button, we can say that a 1 represents urban neighborhoods. And then we can click on this plus button again, and we can enter a 2 here, and we can say that 2 represents rural neighborhoods. Then we can go to OK. And then if we go to the measures column, we can say that neighborhood type is a nominal variable, which is another way of saying that it's a categorical variable essentially. And we can click on this fear row in the measures column, and we can say that that is an ordinal variable. Next we can go down to data view, and we can see that the names of those two variables have appeared at the top of these two columns here. So we're ready to copy and paste the data in from our Excel file. So I'll just select the top left piece of data, then I'll go down, and while holding shift I'll select the bottom right piece of data. Then I'll go to Command or Control C to copy those data, and then I'll select the top left cell in SPSS, and I'll go to Command V to paste those data in. Sometimes that doesn't work, in which case you can just go to Edit and then down to Paste, and that should do the trick. And we can see here that we have urban and rural in this column rather than the 1s and 2s we had in the equivalent column in the Excel file. And that's of course because we allocated these descriptions of urban and rural to the numbers, but it's also because in this view menu we have value label selected. If you unselect that, you just get the numbers. I tend to prefer to keep it selected. So once we have the data in, we're ready to run the analysis. So we can go up to Analyze, and then down to non-parametric tests, then over to legacy dialogues, and then over to 2 independent samples. Then we can transfer our independent variable to the grouping variable box and our dependent variable to the test variable list. We can see that we have Mann Whitney U selected already, so all we have to do now is click on the independent variable, then on define groups. And we used 1 and 2 to refer to urban and rural neighborhoods respectively. So we're just going to enter 1 and 2 into these two boxes. Then we'll go to continue, and then we'll go to OK to run the analysis. So that runs the Mann Whitney U test, but we also would like to generate medians. So to create these, we can go up to Analyze, and then down to Compare Means and Proportions, then over to Means, and then we can transfer our independent variable to the independent list and our dependent variable to the dependent list. Then we can go to Options, and we can transfer a median over here by using this arrow, and we can get rid of these statistics by sending them over to this side. Then we can go to Continue and then to OK. So we can see here that we have medians for the urban and rural neighborhoods, and we have a median fear score of 4 for the urban neighborhood and a median fear score of 3 for the rural neighborhood. So it looks like there was a little bit less fear about crime in the rural neighborhood compared to the urban neighborhood, but we don't yet know whether that was significant. So to find that out, we need to look at this test statistics table. And if we look at this asymp sig two-tailed row, we can see that we have a p or sig value below 0.001, and as this is below 0.05, it indicates that we had a significant difference in fear scores between those two conditions. So that's essentially how we run and interpret the Mann Whitney U test, but let's now take a look at how we can report those results. So I've said that a Mann Whitney U test revealed that fear of crime scores were significantly higher among the participants in urban neighborhoods than among those in rural neighborhoods. And then I've referred to these medians and n numbers whenever referring to one of these conditions. So let's take a look at where those stats come from. So that was the urban neighborhood. So we're looking at this report table here, and we can see that in the urban row we have a median of 4. And if we go up to this ranks table, we can see that in the urban row we had 15 participants. And then I've just done the same thing for the rural neighborhood, where we have a median of 3 and an N number of 15. So next we have this U number of 21.50, and that's coming from this test statistics table and from this Mann Whitney U row. We also have a Z number of negative 3.94, and that's coming from the Z row, and I've just rounded this number here to 2 decimal places. And we have a p-value of less than 0.001, and that's coming from this asymp two-tailed row, where we have this value here of less than 0.001. And the last thing I've reported is this R value, and SPSS doesn't actually provide us with this, but it's good to report because it's an effect size statistic, and it's often good to get a sense of how big the difference is really between conditions by assessing an effect size statistic. So we calculate this value by taking this Z value, minusing any minus symbol that might be in front of it if there is one, and dividing that by the square root of the total number of observations. So in this case we have 15 people in the urban neighborhoods and 15 people in the rural neighborhoods, so our total number of observations is 30. So you can just take these numbers and you can put them into Google. So here's the Z number, and if we divide that by the square root of 30, Google has informed me that we have an R value of 0.72 if we round that to 2 decimal places, and that's what I've reported here. And the last thing to take a look at is this note here, which explains why that I've described this R value as large. And that's based on what Cohen said in 1988. He said that an R value above 0.1 can be described as small, an R value above 0.3 can be described as moderate, and an R value above 0.5 can be described as large. And as 0.72 is bigger than 0.5, we have described this effect size as large. So that's about it for the Mann Whitney U test on version 31 of SPSS. I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions, just let me know in the comments and I'll try to get back to you. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.